Welcome to another video. I'm Michael Misha Pidgicor. Yes, this is my real name. My father was one of the birds from the movie The Birds. So it's been a hot minute, but no worries. I promised you this video would get made and it did. You're watching it right now. Unless you're someone reading this video script after finding it in the wake of my puzzling disappearance. Now, this is the second installment in my Dark Forest Monster series, so if you haven't seen the first one, I recommend you do so you know what's going on. Also, so I don't get anyone asking me to draw cats I already did. And for those who did watch it, thank you so much for over 70,000 views. I was not expecting such a big and positive reception to the video and I couldn't be happier. Anyway, enough with the mushy stuff. Let's get to the video. Our first cat of the day is Antpelt, a rather minor character in the grand scheme of things, but still a very recognizable one. When you think about it, Antpelt should not be as popular as he is. He comes from an arc a lot of people regard as the worst of the series, he puffed into existence between two books, and he isn't referenced much past Omen of the Stars. However, despite that, he's still a star of many maps, PMVs, AUs, and honestly, I kinda get why. Unlike some more forgettable Dark Forest trainees, Antpelt has a surprising amount of interesting tidbits about him. They paint the story of a kind and gentle cat, corrupted by the powers of the Dark Forest, who ended up dying by the hands of the person he previously refused to hurt. Unfortunately, since this is warrior cats we're talking about, we aren't really given much besides that, so I had to work with what's basically crumbs. I admit, I couldn't not incorporate the ant part of the name into the design. I felt like if I didn't, this would have been a missed opportunity. I had two main ideas on how to go about that. Either A, make him into an ant monster, or B, make him into a living anthill, with ants coming out and crawling around his body. I ultimately decided on the first one, not only because I thought the living bug hive could work better for a different design, but also because I just thought this one fit him more. Ants are known for working as a big unit, and him becoming a literal ant could symbolize a loss of individuality. In the books, Ivypool remarks on how different Antpelt is compared to other trainees. However, as he dies and starts acting more on par with his peers, he becomes just another angry Dark Forest cat with nothing to set him apart from the rest. Going back to the drawing, I was very happy with how the concept came out. That's why I moved on to the final drawing pretty much right away. As you probably noticed, the finished version of this piece doesn't really look that different from the concept, and like I mentioned, that's because I felt really confident with the design. I liked it, so much so that I didn't even want to change up the pose. Maybe the reason finishing this drawing was so easy for me was because this wasn't my first rodeo. I drew Dark Forest Antpelt before. It was for an Antbreeze drawing back in 2021, and as you may have noticed, that version had way less monstrous features. Maybe it's time to remake it with the new design. Going back to the new design, just because I didn't change much from the concept art didn't mean I didn't change anything. I wanted to make Antpelt look even more grotesque, and so I played around with the part I disliked the most in his first design, the paws. To me, the paws in the concept art look way too silly looking, so instead of making them just regular cat paws, I instead went for a paw ant-like hybrid. I think that was a good call. Another big change I made was Antpelt's back. In the original he had bold patches, a reference to his previous design in which I decided that the black freckles he has on a lot of Fanon designs are actually just lack of fur revealing an exoskeleton-like skin. However, I scrapped that idea and instead just decided to give him a normal back. That is until halfway through when I realized that his spine kinda looked like a bunch of anthills, so I decided to add some ants walking over him. They are supposed to be in a formation known as an ant mill, or as most of you know it from a certain song, a spiral of ants. It's a phenomenon where ants start following each other after losing a pheromone track, which results in them walking in circles, often resulting in death from exhaustion. You can take that as you want in relation to Antpelt's arc. And here he is, all done. Like I mentioned, I'm really proud of the finished product. I think I did a good job making him look both scary and grotesque. If there's one thing I could change, however, is maybe change up the lighting so it doesn't shine so hard on his back. I felt like it covered up the red patchy scheme from the ends that I wanted to showcase. Our second cat is Thistleclaw, a character I imagine a lot of you wanted to see. I'm really hoping all of us can agree that he's an absolutely rotten person, from the way he constantly inflicted violence on others to the way he treated Tigerpaw and Spotted Paw. Even in the category that the fandom gives him credit for, he doesn't even seem to extend much kindness to his family either, calling his son and date wife weak. It makes me think that even if Snowford didn't die, at some point in their relationship Thistleclaw would have shown his true colors. That's exactly why I knew from the beginning I wanted to incorporate a wolf motif into his design. Ignoring how you personally feel about them, wolves are often associated with aggression and violence. In many stories they're a dangerous threat or are even meant to represent an abuser. Relating to the latter, wolves have also been used in stories as a metaphor for stranger danger, such as in grim fairy tales Little Red Riding Hood or The Wolf and the Seven Young Goats. And just as a cherry on top, despite not being a wolf, Thistleclaw did receive his warrior name for fighting off a dog. Now, to the design itself, I really wasn't sure what to do at first, so I started off with trying to make him into a cat-wolf hybrid. As inspiration for the wolf part, I used Robin's wolf from The Path and the werewolf from An American Werewolf in London, continuing the tradition of me using characters from movies I never watched as references. I was also trying to incorporate the Thistleplower into his design, making them grow from his back and cover his eyes to symbolize him now becoming nothing but a blind, violent beast. However, I can't say I really liked the effect. Overall, I wasn't too happy with this concept art. I didn't really look much like a wolf-cat hybrid, more just like a weird wolf or something, and the inclusion of flowers seemed a bit out of place. However, this is just a concept drawing after all, so we shouldn't worry about it too much. Now, back in December of 2022, as I was preparing to draw the final piece for Thistleclaw, something unfortunate happened. I got an absolutely horrible art block. It really did not help that aside from this video, I had a bunch of other art to finish, alongside stressing about university and the upcoming holidays. But still, I tried my best to fight it and finish the drawing, which led to me not only being absolutely miserable, but also not that happy with the finished product. The main concept for this version was that Thistleclaw is letting his violence control him, which manifests in the form of this fleshy wolf beast coming out of him. He also has a wolf maw at the back of his head, which means he has to twist his neck to show it. I really don't think the core idea is bad. I don't even think I did an awful job with the drawing. I just can't help but feel like I could have done more. Perhaps I could have experimented a bit or pulled more from Thistleclaw's backstory. I'm also not really sold on the neck twisting part. I tried to make it look like his head was spun around multiple times, but I think it ended up looking more goofy than anything. I also definitely pull way less effort into shading this one than the others. But let's get back on the negativity. If there's one thing I really like about this drawing, it's the wolf part. I think I drew it pretty well and made the muzzle look, well, scary looking. This is definitely not my best work in the series, and I feel like if I was feeling better I may have done a better job as well, but still, I was so happy just to finish this. It's hard to draw during an art block, and just for that I think I deserve a good pat on the back. It is now time to move on to the final cat. Once again, I put people's favorites at the end, so say hello to Hawkfrost. Out of all Tiger Star clones, Hawkfrost is probably the most popular and well-loved one. However, I found myself struggling with what I wanted his design to be. That's probably due to the fact I was never super into Hawkfrost, and the last time I read the new prophecy was like 9 years ago. Similarly to Mapleshade, Hawkfrost is seen as a bit of a manipulative type who hides his intentions, so I wanted to make something in the vein of that design. But what was I supposed to do? I already did the Two-Face thing with Mapleshade, the character having another thing at the back of their head with Thistleclaw, and the character being covered in a pelt/something else with both Tigerstar and Mapleshade. Fortunately, during a call with Aster of the channel Arachnids, who once again was my consultant, I had an idea. Hawk is a bird, isn't it? And so I decided Hawkfrost would have two forms. The first one is the one he primarily shows to Ivypaw and some other apprentices to get their trust. It would be based on an egg, look friendly and approachable, while also still carrying a certain feeling of dread to it. Meanwhile, his real form would be much more freaky and based on a hawk. In the end, my image of the first form was pretty clear, while the second one was a bit more difficult. I definitely wanted him to have the whole half cat, half bird thing going on, but I wasn't sure how to execute it. You can even see me pulling inspiration from baby birds, because in my head, his previous form would crack like an egg to reveal his true one. Also because I imagined being a baby bird abomination would be pretty embarrassing for a strong warrior like him. In the end, I wasn't sure how I felt about this concept art, but nevertheless, I wanted to move forward to the finished version to see how that would go. Not a lot has changed from my concept to the final execution of the egg Hawkfrost. However, the original concept for this design was actually made by Arachnids and had some noticeable differences. It included more pinkish hues that I decided to change into yellow ones in order to make him resemble a hawk's egg. That's also why I added little spreckles and dark spots on him. Another thing I did to give him a more egg-like appearance was to take away his long pelt, unlike in the concept drawing. I felt like keeping him fluffy would take away a certain feel. He would just end up looking like a normal cat, while making him completely smooth yet still have the appearance of fur. For example, having his tail and cheeks be big and round as if to emulate fluff, gives it a certain uncanniness. It makes him look fake, like a porcelain doll that would break if you hit it too hard, and looking at the crack on his chest, you really don't want that to happen. The fracture surrounding the stake was Aster's idea. They wanted to have something to allude to Hawkfrost's true nature, and that there may be more to him than meets the eye. I loved it and decided to incorporate it into the final design, while also adding some dark overlays in order to make it look more sinister. One of Aster's other ideas that made it into the final cut was the tail ending in a sharp spike, another nod to his devilish nature. And so, the first version of Hawkfrost is finished. While drawing, I realized that unintentionally I made him look a lot like a Starkland cat, which made me think if that perhaps made Ivypaw trust him a bit more. With his light-colored pelt and shimmering eyes, I wonder if he ever seemed to her like a misguided soul, trying to find his way back to heaven. Previously I mentioned that while finishing Thistleclaw I've gotten a terrible art block, and though it did ultimately go away, I can't say it didn't leave a stain on this project. After finishing Thistleclaw, I felt tired and burned out, but was hoping that getting to work on another cat would renew my excitement for the project. Unfortunately, it didn't go as I planned, and when coming face to face with the final drawing, I didn't know what to do. I felt happy enough with the fake Hawkfrost, but had no idea what to do with the final monster that would make me satisfied. Worse enough, I felt the clock ticking. I was hoping to release this video in December, just in time for the holidays, but already postponed it due to the art block. Now it's been almost a month since I promised the video would get finished and my finals were coming up. How would I be able to juggle all of this? What would people think of me? They're probably already getting impatient and are about to start screaming at me, "Michael, where's part 2? You promised a part 2, so where is it? Why can't you just make videos faster like all the other artist YouTubers?" And so, I did what I did before. I pushed myself. I went with the first idea for the Mossed Hawkfrost that I had in my mind, and I forced myself to sit down and work on it. It didn't matter how happy I was with the drawing. It didn't matter how resentful I felt. It didn't even matter that some days I would just open the file to work, look at it for a few seconds, and then close it. I just needed to get this done. At some point, it stopped even feeling like a passion project anymore, and more like an obstacle I needed to overcome in order to move on to doing anything else. But I just needed to have this done. Soon, the stress from this project as well as from my finals going on at the time caused me to get sick. I could not finish the drawing because I was laying in bed with a fever. During that time, my mind was racing. What should I do now? Should I get back to trying to finish Hawkfrost after I get well? Should I just scrap the idea entirely? At one point, I'd even thought about asking someone else to finish this video for me so it would come out on time, but after some talking, I realized how hard on myself I was being. I am not a content farm or a full-time YouTuber with a team of editors and helpers that has all the time to release these videos regularly. I'm not even someone who's pursuing art as a career. I shouldn't be forcing myself to do this just because I feel like I have to. It's not gonna benefit anyone, whether that be me or the viewers. I'm just making myself miserable. And so, I decided to put this project on the back burner and wait until I had enough inspiration to pick it up again. In the meantime, I focused on my university work, other videos, and most importantly, personal projects. Just things I could do to unwind and relax. Getting to let go of this project for a while felt freeing, like a rock was finally lifted from my back. But despite that, I knew I didn't want to let this go. So I let it sit. And so it sat, and it sat, and it sat. Until it didn't need to anymore. In the months following the project, I really debated whether to pick it up where I left off or to start the monster Hawkfrost all over again, and ultimately, I chose the latter. I was way too unsatisfied with the previous version to continue it, and so I went with an entirely new concept. One a bit more out there. When first making rough concept sketches for this new version, I largely focused on making the monster a creepy bird-cat hybrid, but my mind ultimately went for a bit of a different idea. A grotesque, naked griffin-like creature with pathetic wings and Hawkfrost's head hidden in its mouth. In the comment section of my previous video, I often see people putting their own takes on how they would monsterify other Warrior Cats characters, and despite not really reading them as I don't want to accidentally steal someone's idea, I noticed that quite a few comments have tried to incorporate Hawkfrost's name into the design. Well, my version is definitely a hawk, and it would certainly suffer from severe frostbite in a colder climate, so I think I gave the fans what they wanted. All jokes aside, I can't say I had any deep reasoning for making this design the way it is like with my previous ones. You can certainly make an argument for how Hawkfrost seemed to hide his true self in both of these designs. That's an interpretation of the character I'm rather fond of, but I'm pretty sure it's not very accurate to the canon. I just wanted to have some fun and design a messed up looking monster. However, like I mentioned previously, making him have small wings and resemble a baby bird was a conscious choice. These forms aren't meant to be pleasant for the cats after all. Giving him such an appearance was a way to sort of humiliate Hawkfrost, basically calling him weak, pathetic, and alluding to the fact that he's the youngest of Tiger Star's sons. Looking back, I kinda wish I went a step further and made some part of his design reference Tadpole's death, but then again, I'm not sure about that. And so, we have our final monster. Hawkfrost is officially done. It was a crazy journey, but in the end, I'm so glad I took that break. Instead of having to settle for whatever, I actually ended up with a design I really like. And so, my dear viewers, take it as a lesson. Take breaks, give yourself time. Go outside, take a nap, do sports, whatever you prefer. It can really help you notice all the mistakes you did beforehand and get new ideas on how to improve them. Plus, you're not a machine. Your body and mind will really appreciate it. So, we have come to the end. But don't go just yet, I have some important things to announce. That's right, it's time for ogłoszenia parafialne. The next video in this series is gonna be the very anticipated drawing corrupted StarClan cats, but I need your help. Some of you in the comments have misinterpreted my intent with this video, as I am not looking to draw cats like Firestar, Bluestar, or Spotted Leaf. Instead, I want to focus on cats that in your opinion didn't deserve their place in StarClan. Cats who may have gotten in, but their horrible selfish actions seem to still be reflected on their skin. I already have one particular cat I'll definitely be doing, but I want to hear your suggestions on who should be in the video too. However, be prepared for a long wait on this one. I'm gonna be busy with a lot of stuff this coming month, so expect it to come out at least in August or September. In the meantime, I want to make some smaller videos, but I'm not sure exactly what to do yet. Of course, I will probably still be putting out PMVs and map parts like I always do, but you know what I'm talking about, videos like this. I was thinking of perhaps doing some art challenges similar to what Northflower does, but I want to hear your ideas too. What kind of art commentary / talking videos would you like to see me do? As indicated by my old community post, I'm also working on and off on a really long video, but I can't give you a date on when it will come out, you'll just have to wait and see. Thank you for watching, please like and subscribe, check out my social media in the description to see more of my art, and hey, while you're at it, go watch my What is the Warrior Cats fandom's favorite ship video. I think it's really interesting and deserves more views. Till next time, goodbye.